If you're frustrated with the portable power options for your Starlink Mini, then I think you'll be interested in today's video. Hello guys, Oscar Hotel 8, Sierra Tango November Julian here for Off Grid Ham Radio. Although many of us get pushback about using Starlink as an emergency communications tool, it is a high bandwidth solution we can use when we're outside of mobile phone coverage. As I've written about many times in Off-Grid Powered for Emergency Communications, Grid Down Emergency Communications, and Designated RTO, an emergency communications strategy is best served when we approach it from a layered perspective. So far, the only problem I've had with Starlink is actually powering it in the field. That's especially true when we're operating man-portable or we don't have a whole lot of load-carrying capacity. What I was looking for was a more pragmatic portable power solution for Starlink. Something that could tag along with me when I'm on my bike, when I'm hiking with my dog, when I'm on the ATV, or even on the snowmobile. The thing is, it had to absolutely pack down small, and it couldn't create more problems than it solved. What you're looking at now is what I've been using up until this point. I've got a power bank with USB-C power delivery. I've got a lightweight solar panel from PowerFilm, and I've got a couple of USB-C power delivery to 12-volt converters to keep both Starlink and the power bank happy. Now this works flawlessly, but it creates an additional problem, and it's something you've heard on my channel before. It's called the wire mess. Although I didn't know it at the time, what I was looking for was a solution that would get the Starlink Mini up off the ground, as well as providing DC output for the Starlink Mini, as well as a DC input or USB-C power delivery input so that I could route power from my solar panel into the power bank while it's powering the Starlink Mini. That's what you're looking at on your screen right now. What makes this all possible is the portable power mount from Orbynexa. When you open the box, you're going to find a couple of cables and some documentation. There's a 100-watt USB-C power delivery cable and the watertight DC cable that plugs directly into the Starlink Mini. You'll also find some documentation included in the box. Now, what's most interesting to me inside this box is the compartment underneath the documentation and cables. This is where we're going to find our portable power mount. The portable power mount arrived in a mesh sleeve. It's just long enough to house the portable power mount itself and the two cables that came with it. When it's in its closed position, the portable power mount has a rather tube-like format. You'll have to forgive me for thinking it kind of reminds me of the PowerFilm Lightsaber Max, at least until you deploy the tripod legs. The tripod legs are easily deployed with a single button push, which releases the latch holding them in place. Now, in addition to my emergency communications use case, having the ability to reach out to family members or friends or someone who could come get me out of trouble when I'm outside of cell phone service, operating on my ATV or on the snowmobile, it's critically important to have a device, a power supply for your Starlink Mini that you don't have to fumble around with to set up and get it started. The portable power mount works with the pipe adapter that comes with your Starlink Mini. We just plug in the included cable into the Starlink Mini, routed through the pipe adapter so that it comes out of the other end. Then we place the Starlink Mini on top of the portable power mount and plug in the cable. The portable power mount has two ports on it. One is a 30-volt DC port that connects directly to the Starlink Mini. The other is a USB-C power delivery port, which is bidirectional, which means you can power something from it, or you can charge the portable power mount with it. We'll use that 30-volt DC barrel port to power this Starlink Mini. And we'll use the USB-C power delivery port via an adapter to bring charging power from the PowerFilm 135-watt crystalline panel. This allows us to simultaneously charge the portable power mount while we're discharging it by powering the Starlink Mini. So I already powered up the portable power mount off camera. Now I'm going to use my mobile phone to connect to the local Starlink network, the Wi-Fi network, and see if we're online and oriented the right way. So getting online was easy enough, but now let's check the alignment. When your Starlink is aligned as recommended by the Starlink app, we can get maximum throughput through it, much better than if we just randomly point it in whatever direction. So I wasn't quite aligned correctly as the Starlink app suggested, but that really wasn't a problem because the portable power mount allows you to swivel to the left or to the right, the Starlink Mini, even when it's attached to the tripod. So our alignment is perfect and our tilt is good enough. So let's go ahead and talk about a couple of other features found on the portable power mount. What you're looking at here is the battery level and charging indicator. If you're having trouble seeing it, yes, it is charging, and no, you're not alone and there's nothing wrong with your eyes. The battery level and charging indicator is extremely difficult to see in daylight conditions. I really thought it best to highlight this feature failure, let's say, rather than letting you get disappointed with some upsell expectations. For those of us who are operating in extreme environments, this feature is incredibly important, and I do hope the company decides to upgrade it in future models. All right, so I probably should have done this earlier, but I think it's a good time to go ahead and talk about the specifications of the inputs, outputs, and the battery itself. As I mentioned earlier, the battery pack has two outputs. One is a USB-C power delivery port. That's bi-directional. You can charge through it or discharge through it. So the USB-C power delivery port supports 5 volts 3 amps, 9 volts 3 amps, 12 volts 3 amps, 15 volts 3 amps, and 20 volts 3.25 amps. The portable power mount also has a DC output, which is 30 volts at 2 amps. The total capacity of the battery pack is 166.5 watt-hours. If you're using it to charge your phone or camera equipment or things like that, it's got a fast charging output of 65 watts. And finally, the USB-C port supports both Power Delivery 3 and QC4. So let's go ahead and take a look at how the average or typical person would use the Orbynexa portable power mount in the field. Now, normally we would use a use case like grid down emergency communications. But what if you're off the grid sometime and you need to pull some information down from the internet? For example, a YouTube tutorial. So what I've done here is I've laid down the Orbynexa portable power mount. I've attached the Starlink Mini to it and powered it up. I've connected to the internet through that Starlink, and I'm charging the Orbynexa portable power mount with my PowerFilm 135 watt crystalline panel. Now I'm able to watch one of my favorite YouTube channels, Gil, the radio prepper, without wires or mobile phone connections from anywhere on the planet. Naturally, watching YouTube videos off the grid with your Orbynexa portable power mount and Starlink dish is just one use case, but feel free to let me know in the comments how you power your Starlink dish and what you use your Starlink for in the field.
Okay, 339. I said K151. Yep, he got it. Got my name.
Now, pretty often we find accessories for the tools we use, which are basically just gimmicks, but this one actually solves a problem. It picks up our Starlink Mini off of the ground, and it provides a stable 30 volts or USB-C power delivery for the devices we use, whether that's Starlink or something else. So before we close down this video, I have a couple of more things to show you. First of all, this is my kit. I've got the PowerFilm 135 watt crystalline panel. I've got the 4-roam storage pouch for my Starlink Mini. And of course, I got the Orbynexa portable power mount in its mesh bag. Now, the last thing I want to show you is how we set up the Starlink with the Orbynexa portable power mount with a view from above while I do it. Now, usually I just put out the PowerFilm solar panel, whichever one I happen to be using, but you can use any solar panel you like. Next, I take out the Starlink Mini and remove it from its 4-row MOLLE pouch. I'll place the Starlink Mini on the front rack of the ATV and set the 4-row pouch aside. Now I'll take the portable power mount out of its mesh sleeve, set the mesh sleeve aside, then extend the tripod legs and set it on the front rack of the ATV. When that's done, I'll go ahead and set the Starlink Mini on top of the Orbynexa, plug in the power cable, turn the Orbynexa on, then orient the Starlink Mini into the best direction. Here at 65 degrees north, the Starlink Mini will work in almost any direction, but I normally orient it to north for best and fastest results. Now, normally I would open the Starlink app to make sure that the Starlink Mini is oriented the right way and that we have a good connection to the internet, but I'm not going to do that now. Instead, I'll go ahead and open up my iPad and ensure that it's connected to the Wi-Fi network that the Starlink Mini creates when it's powered up. If that Wi-Fi network is working and I have a solid connection to the internet, we can open YouTube and just use Tucker Carlson's latest episode to ensure that our streaming is working and fast enough. So there you have it, guys. My emergency internet kit, just one layer of a greater or larger emergency communications plan. I'll leave links in the description for most of the things you've seen in this episode. And that's about it, guys. Look, I should remind you, I don't take money for reviews. So if you like what I'm doing, if you like the content I'm creating, please let me know by leaving a thumbs up or a like or sharing this video with someone or someplace where other operators might find it. And if you'd like to support the channel even further, please buy one of my books, Off-Grid Power for Emergency Communications, Grid Down Emergency Communications, Designated RTO, and the Radio Antenna Handbook for SHTF. And if you didn't know it already, there's more books on the way. Rock and roll, guys. You are all absolutely awesome. 73. Ciao.